Hello there everyone, welcome back to Alpha Tauri. It's been a while, but we're finally back onto a somewhat stable patch for on 1.7. Basically all the benefits of 1.6 with the exception of sliders, meaning that the sliders are still like they were on 1.5. No matter how we put the sliders in the sign, we're going to get balanced gains, and it'll be the same for research. So honestly, the other things that we have seen getting patched, qualifying among other things, we're going to go through them a little bit in this video. A little bit different, but basically we'll be having a look at the patch itself and how it works. So a little bit of a different episode today, but I think it's a I think this is the best way to see how things like patches actually do affect us. So we're going to do it like this. Hopefully you'll still enjoy. As I said, it's been a while, basically almost a week since we last loaded up the save. I believe the last time around we had Lawson have a little bit of an incident. He does have 2 yellow kappa to kind of back that statement up. And in terms of our chassis and equipment here, it looks like we're just about caught up. Now, we are going to have a little bit of a look on one of the, unannounced, if you will, changes, which was the fact that there's been a change to durability. So we'll have a little bit of a look at that and what you can expect with that too. But for now, I think what we're going to do is jump directly into the next race. And once we get one of these slots done in about a month, we can have a look at the changes to, as I said, durability. We can have a look at some of the other things that have changed, but for now we're just gonna slowly get back into it. It's been a bit of a stressful week for me because, well, I haven't really been able to plan any content or plan ahead, so I am kind of behind on the upload schedule. But hopefully, for Saturday and Sunday we should be back on track, I hope. Now keep in mind that I am also a little bit not 100%, let's put it like that. You can probably hear by my voice being a little bit weirder. My nose is basically stuffed, a little bit sniffly, but it is what it is. We'll just have to deal with that as we go. So it's not a bad thing. I'm not sick yet, at least, so we'll hopefully be able to keep myself going. But yeah, we're back in this. We're gonna have a look at the patch. As we go, we're going to get into Miami, and I think the first thing we're going to have a look at there is actually the changes to qualifying. Qualifying has been fixed, and the AI should now be far more competitive, meaning that the 2 laps qualifying has been somewhat nerfed in terms of, the second lap will not be setting you better times, but I think it should still be viable due to its reliability rather than due to, setting 2 quick laps. So as I said, we'll have a bit of a look at that once we actually get into the qualifying here. So we're just going to go ahead, jump into Miami, get practice done, and I'll see you in qualifying. First things first, the patch did introduce a visual bug, and that is all it is. If you want to use your reserve, for instance, if you press this button, you can see that this switches to driver development, but Sonota doesn't actually switch. If you do it like this, it'll actually update. So the reserve driver not showing up for practice is basically just a visual bug. You still see the move change around here from track acclimatization to driver development, and that is the best way you can know if you have your reserve actually in the car. So it's a visual bug, they happen, it's not a big deal actually. This game has had a fair amount of them, but as I said, it's not a big deal. You can just fix that very easily by either going back a page and pressing continue, or just looking for this driver development tab as a practice goal, because your reserve and your drivers will have a different first goal for practice. So yeah, it's not as I said, it's one of the things that have been introduced. It's not a big one, but that is the easiest way to kind of circumvent that. And as I said, if you really want to see your driver in the car, you can just go back a page, press continue. It's 2 extra clicks, which is of course frustrating, but it's easily fixed. And again, as I said, it seems to be just visual. here we go. We're now more or less ready for qualifying. We're going to have a final look at the car setups, of course. But we've also changed out the engine and gearbox for both cars. Basically, both the Tsunoda was 3% total between engine and gearbox. Getting into the yellow zone, so we switched his out as well. Same here for Lawson. Both of them were in the yellows, and the engine was kind of deep in the yellows. So we switched that out. Now we are going to be doing the 2 flying laps here because I want to have a bit of a look. We could of course put one of them on 1 flying lap. But we just want to see now if the AI is competitive with us while running this. We'll see if the lap times are about equal, if we have an improvement on the second lap or not. And we'll be doing that throughout all 3 sessions. Now, as I said, we do need to do our final setup here because as you can see, we are actually outside of the optimal window, if you will. So we are just going to go ahead and quickly fix that. And I think this should be good, honestly, for Tsunoda. For Lawson, again, this is minor tweak needed. 1 to the right there, 1 to the left, like so. Probably not going to be 100%, but should be pretty close. So we'll take this. So with that said, let's jump into quality, see here what we can actually expect now that they have made fixes. So they made 2 fixes to quality. The first one is fairly simple, and that is that the AI will now be pushing properly, meaning that we can expect them now to actually, you know, go full attack into that final corner and push. Particularly on Baku was a huge crime. Baku, Monza, any track that had kind of a longer straight with a somewhat curvy final turn, sandboard, had big issues with the AI not going all out and pushing properly, and as a result, you'd end up suffering a bit in terms of your lap times. First run here is being set now. Lawson looks like he did not improve on his second lap. Let's see if Tsunoda can do anything here. No, he couldn't do anything either. So with the AI now pushing properly too, the 2-lap strategy is going to have a bit of a different negative impact, and that is straight off the fact that before it was very viable because the AI wouldn't use all the energy on most tracks. Now, if they have changed now so they're actually pushing properly, you could see the AI using on automatic mode for 2 laps back to back, using all the energy up so that by the time we get to the 3rd sector, so to speak, we actually do not have any extra energy, which of course would be horrible. But we'll have a look at the lap times they once were through to Q1, and we'll compare it to, say, Verstappen, Sainz, Stroll. Yeah, I forgot what kind of lineup we had here, but Behrman now, pretty good qualifying from him. Actually beat out Ocon and Mercedes. That's this is the cursed timeline, ain't it? Definitely is. But we'll go into data view here, lap history. Have a look here on our laps. As you see, did improve on the second lap, but did actually lose all of that improvement in the final sector because, as I said, potentially just straight up running out of battery. So keep in mind that while running 2 laps might be reliable, I think what might be better now is running 2 laps with a cooldown lap in between, which means that you'll be running an extra lap to recharge between each of the flying runs. It'll take more out of your tires, of course, but you'll stay out on the track more, which should in theory lead to you reliably getting a better time. It's not going to be the potentially best time you can have, but it's going to be somewhat acceptable. But yeah, if you look at this, it's less than a 10th of improvement here too, just 300ths of improvement. So for this track at least, the AI has been kind of tuned to going properly aggressive now. So Noda, we're kind of seeing the same thing, about a 10th slower, a little bit slower here as well, and a slower final stint, massively slower final stint like we saw with Lawson, basically because, as I said, because the AI pushes more properly now, if you will, they do use more energy on that first lap because they use it to push into the start of the first lap. So 2 laps is probably not as reliable or as overpowered as it was, but that is honestly okay. The qualifying now is going to be a bit more competitive. You can't just trash on the AI by using a 2-run strat. The main reason why I did it was because it was more reliable. Whenever I did just one run, I'd get blocked. Couldn't get a second run in most time, and sometimes be out of qualifying before it even really got started. So that's mainly why we do the 2 runs. We're probably going to do 2 runs for Q2 as well, and then we can test the idea with the cooldown in the final one, and we'll compare lap times. Now, Science on the other hand, as you see his outlap here, can't really compare since it doesn't do 2 laps, but the fact that we have laps here that are just slightly quicker in a couple sectors, way slower in another, and it's kind of the same for both cars, do tell us that running 2 laps is not going to be as effective anymore, let's put it like that. So, Lawson here doesn't really have any soft tires to use. He decided to use 5 soft tires during practice, which honestly is okay on this track. It's not a bad strategy. Tsunoda, on the other hand, just used 3, so again, going to be a very interesting race. But what I think we're going to do here is have a look at include cooldown laps. And what we're mainly going to be looking for here is that final sector on the second run to see if it does improve that time. Because again, reliable qualifying is what we're looking for. I'd rather be able to reliably qualify 4th and 5th, and sometimes be out in Q2 because getting blocked by the AI, and that is, again, the idea behind this strategy initially. And then it just turned out that, oh, the AI is pushing in a silly manner. But yeah, let us speed through this quali and we'll have a look at the data. Once again, we're probably going to be fine with just 1 run, I would think. So, we'll have a look at this after the quali has finished. Here we are, second run of quali complete. Let's have a look at the data here in terms of the lap history. So, we did a cooldown lap here. As you can see, it was 20 seconds slower, 21 seconds slower than the others. In terms of the pace, it's about the same. But once again here, we're actually very slow in the final sector, which is interesting. Because in theory, that cooldown lap should allow us to recharge. But it seems like it isn't enough here, so we might actually need 2 cooldown laps before we do a full recharge. So, yeah, AI might have an advantage on this track at least. If you do 2 laps, it might not actually be worth doing 2 laps. You might need to do just 1 and send your car out maybe 3 times. It's the same for Tsunoda. Let's have a quick look here. Basically, yeah, you can see that he still loses about 6/10 in that final sector. Times there aren't that far off. He loses a couple of tenths here. But I don't think that is a big deal because, as you can see for Lawson, basically identical. It wasn't too far off them on the other lap times either. So it's a bit of a weird one here, how we want to consider this one. Doing 1 lap now and just pitting could be the best, because the way that that would work is actually that you have 2 cooldown laps. And if you ask what I mean by that, is that you do your first lap, your out lap, you do your fast lap, you do your in lap, which is the first cooldown lap, then you do your out lap again after refueling, resetting the car, which will be your, again, your second cooldown lap to fully recharge your battery, and then you will do the fast lap and in lap again. So you end up actually doing, you know, a few more laps, but that might actually be what we do here. And honestly, I don't mind doing a bit of an experiment here. I like to set the number of cooldown laps here, because since we aren't able to, we're just going to do 1 flying lap. Run plan here, out lap, flying lap, cooldown lap, in lap. Even if I tick this, it doesn't actually change anything right now, because the in lap counts as a cooldown lap. But yeah, we're gonna do 2 single flyers, and we'll see if those have a bit of better lap time, or if that loss in sector 3 is just straight up due to tire degradation, one might say. So let's toggle off the cooldown lap. Let's do the run 1 like so. And if I could, I'd actually like to put in 2 cooldown laps here between those flying laps. Give us basically a bit more of a strategy planner for qualifying. Because right now it might actually be needed. Either that or we're just going to have to take manual control with this strategy, which is going to be a bit more painful, but definitely doable. So let's jump into quali here and see if the 2 single laps will get the job done. I haven't updated the YouTube video yet either because, well, I don't really have anything to update with yet. Did I actually switch tires for him? I did. Okay, we're good. I'll be updating the top comment of the YouTube video regarding qualifying as soon as I figure out what the best strategy is, but for now, it seemed like they have nerfed it somewhat hard. So already, you can see that Lawson got held up, I would assume. Either that or just a second slower than Tsunoda. Don't see that as being the case, really. And we are immediately going to just do another run. Same here for Tsunoda. We want to be safe. Again, Lawson doesn't actually have any extra tires, as you can see. He's just going to have 1 stop for the race day, which is okay. But it's not great. So, I'd also really like to see the status of the car right now. Like, is the battery full, for instance? Would be a nice thing to know. But we'll just send him out like this, and we'll have a look. Tsunoda has such a huge lead that I don't think it's necessary for him to go out again. He's basically going to be doing potentially a 4-stopper here with the amount of soft tires that he has. But this place does have high degradation, so we'll have to see. But there we go. Lawson did get a proper run in. But I want to see what went wrong on that first run in particular. Okay. So, Lawson's run here. Second one. Did not lose time in... lost a little bit here. Was a tad slower, but again, these are older tires. Very slow here, very slow here. Apparently, I have not muted my phone. My apologies. But yeah, pretty decent run. I wish we could compare it to earlier, lap, but I believe this is a lot better. We were seeing 34.8s, 35s on the final sector, so again, this is the first lap though. So it's probably more understandable that it's working. That said, I really like to see some more data, but we don't have it, so no need. And we're kind of seeing the same numbers here from Tsunoda. So doing 1 lap now, at least at Miami, is definitely viable. You're probably going to need more than just a 1 cooldown lap if you want to do 2 flyers, because I don't think we got a noteworthy bogged down. But qualifying is fixed now, although you don't really see the results here on this save, because we have Magnussen on 3rd here, Russell and Ferrari. But yeah, you don't really see the effects there because the car that we have is significantly more powerful than our opponent's cars. But the AI is more competitive now in quali. We can't get a huge advantage by doing 2 flying laps, but I'll be testing this out on the other tracks too. We'll see if there's any odd ends there. But generally, as I said, it seems like they have done a good fix for quali, and I'm happy with that, honestly. It's a good fix. The AI is now more competitive, and because of the fix, though, we might need to have, the choice of additional cooldown laps between fast laps. Because as you can see that, even if we put in a cooldown lap, we weren't able to recharge our battery to have enough to do the 3rd sector, even with a cooldown lap. So, bit unfortunate, that is. Miami race here. Soft tires are about 3/10, well, almost 4/10 quicker than... a little bit of a 3/10 quicker than the medium, but the degradation is incredibly high at 400s of difference, meaning that within 10 laps, the mediums are better than softs. Medium to hards, on the other hand, is a different story. It'll take a good 25 laps there for them to become equal. So, with the amount of tires that Lawson in particular is saved, we can potentially do something, you know, kind of silly, like full attack 3-stint like this. But as you can see, degradation isn't that high here, so we'll have to see exactly how we want to set this up, but this is probably what we'd end up with. We do have a little bit more to go on in terms of tires, which allows us for a lockup or two maybe, which would be nice. The other strategy is, of course, doing, you know, a soft stint instead, or in this case, soft, medium, medium. And as you can see, we can't actually run that on full attack mode. We'd have to tune it down up a little bit, but not risk puncturing. And it's actually, in theory, going to be about 6 seconds slower than this one. So that's the thing. Right now, attack is very, very viable due to the fact that the time that you lose on being on a quote-unquote slower compound, you can easily regain by just being aggressive with your use of said compound. Now, Tsunoda's going to have a bit of a harder time with setting up strategy because, as you know, we only have one hard, one medium. For Lawson, we have 2 mediums and 2 hards. So he has a lot more flexibility on this track in particular on how we set up his car. Now, Tsunoda is quick, so honestly, doing something like this alone should be enough to get him the victory. But what I think we're going to do here is we're going to go attack. And we're going to do a final soft stint to secure that fastest lap. Let's be honest, that's going to be the goal here. Now, this strategy will not be as quick as Lawson, which means that potentially Lawson will be getting his first win. Could actually be an end to Tsunoda's perfect season already. 28.35 versus 28.33, so they're not too far off, to be fair. Should still be interesting to have a look at, of course. But yeah, we'll jump into this race, and we'll see if we get away cleanly. We'll update during the pit stops, and honestly, it should be a good race. Feels good to be back with Alpha Tauri here.
With the Miami Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Lawson there with a incredible launch. Both cars now virtually safe. Magnussen retains, although he is fighting Russell. And actually, yeah, Magnussen, the only one in the top 10 that are on older softs. The rest have either fresh ones, or the soft runners are further down the track. Most are on the medium tire. Now, we have already basically gotten away here, so what I'm going to do is put both of these down. Mainly because we don't want our drivers to, you know, crash, for one. And potentially here we will be creating, artificially, a little bit of room between them, as we have been doing. It's basically just a safety measure. On this game, you don't get much time from DRS, from constant DRS overtaking each other. So we are going to avoid doing that. Basically, we don't need to do that also, is the second thing. Sometimes you're going to have to, just to catch up to a potentially quicker car in front. But in our case, we don't actually have to do that, so we will not. Of course, we're going to take advantage of this car as much as possible. Tsunoda should still be quicker though, so what I'm thinking is that we tell Lawson to let him go, which is of course kind of a mean thing to do. But Tsunoda now on the straight should just kind of fly by anyways, so it shouldn't be a big issue here, like so. Now, in terms of the tires here, we can push them up to 130 degrees. They're now stable at around 125, so degradation for the mediums is not a concern. And for now, we'll just let them run as they are. I will try to split them up later on, but for now we'll just push fuel, push tires, push everything until we get to said point. Because even if they are just overtaking each other, it is actually boosting their confidence a little bit. So we'll speed things along and we'll see where we're at that first pit stop. As you can see, Tsunoda is pulling away from Lawson. This is mainly due to tires, so I haven't actually had to do anything. Tsunoda has about 8% more to go in his tires. Lawson has about 8% less. And it's resulting into a bigger and bigger gap here in terms of the interval. Lawson also had a bit of an incident on this final lap, on this last lap, which also slowed him down. But we are getting very, very close here now to the pit stops. We are going to be pitting Lawson first, which honestly isn't the best thing here, because again, Lawson is running behind. I'd like for him to you know, be just a tad bit slower, retain this gap for safety measures. But as you can see, we've already eked out a good 26 seconds to lead. So honestly, I'm not too concerned here. We have a rocket of a car this season, which is going to make our life very, very simple. And I don't think we have to worry too much here. In theory, Lawson is going to come out behind Russell. But as you can see, reality is that we come out a good 4 or 5 seconds ahead. So we still have a bit of an advantage there. Of course, we do need to get heat into these hard tires. And that is what we're doing. About smoothness and, heat, basically. I did write kind of a very complaining long post on Reddit about it. But honestly, if what we just saw here with Tsunoda and Liam Lawson is the issue here, that a high level of smoothness kind of negates temperature to the point that, for balance sake, you had to tune it down so the temperature doesn't really have any effect unless you say hit that maximum 135 degrees. Then it might behoove in this case to change smoothness into basically tire heating and cooling. And what I mean by this is that the higher your smoothness, the quicker you can get your tires up to temperature, the easier you can keep them in the optimal window, and generally just make it so that the higher your smoothness, the better control your driver has over the temperature, rather than just a straight up buff to durability. I think that could be a way to do it, but again, it's going to be more of a complicated mechanic that is going to require a lot of balancing, so I don't think we see it. But if they would like to make tire heating actually have more of an effect and be more punishing in the future, I think that would be the way to go about it. Basically, as I said, make it so that smoothness affects tire warm-up, tire cooling, rather than tire durability. Excuse me. So with that, we have now a healthy lead again. Lawson 5 seconds behind Tsunoda. Leclerc here, running 18 seconds behind. They are getting close to their first pit stop, however. Russell, Sainz have already pitted. So as you can see here, the car is a rocket ship, and we don't really have anything that we need to be too concerned about. So we'll speed along here, and we'll see where we're at once we get to that final pit stop. Because as you can see, we're running both of these tires in the yellow zone. So no worries here in terms of overheating them whatsoever. We're getting very, very close now to Lawson's pit stop. We're going to stretch him for a lap or two, just because he had higher degradation than expected in the mediums, lower on the hards. So we're basically just stretching him for a couple of laps to make life a little bit easier for ourselves. There's nothing more to it than that. Tsunoda too will be pitting pretty soon, but again, we can also stretch him if we see it fit. There's 15 seconds down to Lawson. There's almost a minute down to Sainz. Well, not really, 48 seconds. It's not always almost a minute in F1. It's 48 seconds. But you get the hyperbole. It's a minute down to Sainz from Tsunoda, so for him, there's no real, pressure to do anything here. And even when we do now pit Lawson, it shouldn't actually affect Tsunoda in any way. We can still just wait to set that fastest lap. The fastest lap here around this track is actually a 31.361. Currently we're running, what are we running? 36.660s on all hards. So yeah, I think we can beat the lap record pretty handedly. And I believe Verstappen is currently holding the fastest lap record, so it's going to be beat for sure. Now, there is another thing that potentially is not part of the patch notes that I'd like to have a little bit of a talk about, and that is that there's a reduced amount of incidents. That seems to be the consensus. It could just be confirmation bias, but during my Williams playthrough, well, not playthrough, the one shot there, unless it was a red flag, which I had during a practice session because I wanted to test something, I didn't really see many safety cars, red flags, yellow flags even, at all. There were very few of them. And we have yet to see a single one during this race. There's not been a single yellow flag. So there might be that they've tuned down the incidents. There was a problem with with cars crashing with static cars on track. I've seen some pretty drastic, the Williams one, this is. I see some pretty drastic avoidance there of stationary cars, so that might very well be fixed, honestly, at this point. It wouldn't actually surprise me if it was. And Wilson here is on a flyer. Italian Jesus there with the quickest lap. So we're going to keep Tsunoda out for a couple more laps here. We still have plenty of ascendancy time down to Lawson, so it's not actually a concern. For Tsunoda here and getting a flying lap, well, fast lap, the main challenge is actually going to be just to find a good space to do it in. And I think what we're going to do here is have him run one more lap and then we pit him. Actually give us a pretty dominant performance in terms of getting that fastest lap. For Lawson, we're going to turn him down to standard because there's no way he catches Tsunoda. There's no way Verstappen catches him. So there's no need for us to push in any, you know, risky manner. We can actually take it a little bit slower. For Tsunoda here now, we are going to be pitting onto the softs. We're going to just keep him on attack so that we can heat up the tires during this, what will essentially be an outlap before a flyer. And it looks like we do not have the best window that we're going to come out into here. We're going to have 3 cars in front of us at the very least that we probably are going to catch up to. So that's not going to be great, but it is what it is. Sometimes you can't really do anything about it. We're going to keep him on standard now, just a little bit here. Well, it doesn't really matter. He's going to heat up those tires anyways. Push, deploy, everything now. Let's see what you can do, Tsunoda, in terms of setting a fast lap here. First challenger out of the way, Piastri. The second and third challenge in the 2 Mercs. How is this going to go? Now, remember, Magnus actually started third, so he's had a bit of a awful race here. We'll have to see if he can improve. Tsunoda, on the other hand, 2 purple sectors, and we end up with a time of 1:27.271, which is about 4 seconds quicker than the previous quickest lap. So for him too, we can just tune him down here now. There's no need, as I said, to do anything risky with these boys. They have basically everything in hand at this stage. That's the thing. There's nothing to really cause any problems for us. So we'll speed up to the end of the race. But as I said, yeah, it does seem like they have kind of patched incidents a bit. They've become more or less common. You'd see a lot of them earlier, but then again, on this day we expect to see less incidents anyways, because the AI and us have very much improved our brake cooling. So it could be, of course, once again one of those confirmation bias things, but I do believe that there has been a bit of a, if not a full fix, an attempted fix at tuning down incidents and making them less bad. So again, shame that it isn't in the passions if they did tweak it, but if they did, kudos, I guess. Although, as I said, it could just be a result of us having better brake cooling and making everything a little bit better in that regard. Now, Tsunoda here, if we had him on full attack, we'd probably been able to lap Leclerc as well, meaning that we could potentially have had a, you know, lap 18 cars. But it is what it is. Race is done here. We actually had our first incident with Schumacher here at the end. So it took the whole race to have the Alphas now doing, you know, have some violence on each other.
Pushing a bit too hard at this point.
And it wasn't even a big incident, basically just a tap.
Okay, we take the flag.
Yeah, 1-2. Lawson and Tsunoda. Tsunoda continues his perfect run here, so to speak. Fastest lap. Everything here. That's going. Couldn't get pole, which is a bit of a shame, but honestly, it's fine. That's not a big deal. Leclerc third, Russell fourth, Verstappen fifth, then we have Gasly, Magnussen and Stroll 7th and 8th, then Ocon, and then Sainz. Ocon did make up for that bad qualifying. Magnussen could not capitalize on his, you know, potential third place placement there. And if we had pushed for Tsunoda, we probably could have overtaken Leclerc as well. I believe he also did beat the expected race time here pretty handily, unless I am mistaken. But yeah, 1:27.271 as his best time. But as you can see, considering that it was 31 something, 31.271, I think, a lot of the cars here actually did beat the fastest lap time. So just proves how well development is going. Lawson moves up to 5th with this. Of course, he hasn't run all races, so it's not a surprise. But I'm pretty sure that if we keep things going, he is going to end up 2nd place. Rick is still down here in 7th. Still has those 2 podiums, so we'll see where he is at by the end of the season. Constructors, Red Bull moves up past Ferrari. We'll hopefully have some fight from them, from Mercedes and Alpine and Aston Martin. And, well, we'll have to see if the bottom 3 teams that actually end up scoring points, in particular Haas, is going to be an interesting one. Now, pit stop wise, we are getting, we're probably not going to be able to get the championship this year, mainly because it's more of a toss-up, as you see Mercedes here, 1.833, 1.850. So, another thing that probably needs a second look here is the pit stops, because if we have a look at last week's pit stop over at Sandboard, the quickest pit stop was just over 2 seconds. The second quickest and third quickest were actually identical, with McLaren having a 2:27 for both their drivers, or both pit stops. And the slowest in the top 10 was a 2.7 second stop. So pit stops are going to need a little bit of a rebalance. Let's say that instead of just aptitude, let's add a risk element to it. And if it's up under 2 seconds, it's going to add you demand that you take some risks to get it done. Generally, yeah, having every top 10 pit stop here be close to 1.9 seconds, it's not great, let's be honest. The pit stops being, there's basically no pit stop errors anymore, because, well, the training doesn't allow for it. And we also have times that are so low that there's no real concern about jumping other teams. Once you get your time down to this, and every team has about the same time, pit stops don't actually become a part of the game, they just become routine. While as a good pit stop in 22, when you were running close to other teams, could define your race. It's just not going to happen here up past Season 1, which is a bit unfortunate. Of course, the player can slow down their progression, but as you see, the AI is also full speeding it. So you could intentionally nerf yourself, but I don't see the point. And again, yeah, 4 pit stops, all below 1.9 seconds. I think the FI needs to get on the field here and fix this. Contreras also got a little bit of a run, which is good. We're getting a bunch of extra money here from our finish position streak, so we'll take that for sure. But as we've seen now, both cars are more than capable of finishing 1-2 and doing so in a very, very aggressive manner, if you will. Engineer and driver attention. Now, these boys don't actually have the best relationship anyways, because Lawson just joined. So we'll do what we usually do, which is intervene. Usually fixes the problem. ATR starts today as well. We're going to be putting this into research, of course. Where? That's going to be a different question. And we have failed the rear wings for both cars, front wing and sideboards too for the second car. So let's go ahead and replace all the parts. And then we'll go and see what we need to actually manufacture here. So we are going to need to manufacture a couple of rear wings, but I want to see exactly what parts we have before we start, creating something new. Front wing it could work for brake cooling, but I think we're just going to manufacture the 2 that we have. We already have a pretty decent car. We'll have a look at that before the next race. We're going to manufacture 2 rear wings as well while we're at it. Reason not to. Side pod. This is not really an upgrade. It is going to be something we might need to slap in the car in terms of needing engine cooling later on. But for now, as I said, that's not a huge concern. We can live without it. These suspensions there, once we run out of them, we're just going to upgrade to these, which is a small upgrade, but it is an upgrade nonetheless. And I think that is going to be the plan here. Next up is going to be the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Just a few days. Chassis that has been manufactured. And I want to have a quick look here at the improvements. So this chassis is an improvement over this one. So what we are going to do here is just manufacture 2 more, which might sound silly, but it should basically mean that we are covered in terms of chassis till the end of the season. And I'll have a little bit of talk about the lifespan, but that's going to require us to get into a point where we can actually have a look at the sign. So we're going to have to wait for the research projects that we have running to finish. Okay, so as you can see here, they solve their issues. Morale goes up, progression goes down, and they become best buds again. So no big problem there. Monthly takeover, let's see what we have in terms of development here for the car. It's still a very good one, but again, this isn't reliable because we need to have a look at it in respects to the other teams. They haven't put on their new parts yet. Or rather, replace their damaged parts even. So, again, not very reliable. Just have to wait a little bit. For Lawson here, he improves a point in reactions, 2 points in defending. For Tsunoda, a point of smoothness and adaptability. We'll take the smoothness, no problem, hands down. That is good. For Contreras here, she actually gets 4 points increase. Cornering, braking, adaptability, and accuracy. So, we'll take that. Take that for sure. We do need to work on that smoothness though. I'm really curious how it's actually going to be once she gets in the car next season in terms of handling that smoothness. Okay, so pit training here. Honestly, as you can see, it is maxed. So we don't actually need to do anything other than just checking that they are, as you can see, at max tired at race day. And since they are, it's fine. We're just going to sign up on this. We don't really need to do anything. Because as I kind of ranted there, the pit crew is already maxed. It becomes a bit of a non-issue a little bit further into your games here. In terms of the sporting director here, still has 4 points to go on, which as I said should bring the baseline down to about 1.8 seconds. Which is going to be pretty insane. Rear wing and front wing manufacture complete. I believe I saw an X2 in the corner there, which signifies that we made 2. I don't think it worked like that before. But that might just be me not being you know, observant enough. But yeah, it did say up here ×2 for the rear wing. Again, could just be me not being observant enough, but if that is also one of those kind of hidden quality of life changes, I'm all for it. Although, as I said, could have been part of the base game, and I just never realized, because I am kind of looking at this a little bit harder in this episode to try and catch the things that, you know, might have been added without them explicitly saying so. With that in mind, let us set up the plan for Emilia Romagna. Finish position streak, 1 driver, top 2, 5 races. We could of course say both drivers in top 10 or something like that, but it is still opportunities for us to crash ourselves out. So having 1 driver should be good enough. Qualifying position, we are bold enough to say that we're going to qualify 1, 2. And with that, let's jump into Emilia Romagna. It's an ATA qualifying weekend, so we'll still do a little bit of an experiment with, you know, the 2 flying laps. And I'll see what is more effective here. Might need to have to redo my entire guide and have it be track specific. But yeah, we are going to speed into the next race weekend. The first quali session is over with. Let's have a look at the lap times here and see if we were seeing the same thing that we saw in, well, in Miami. And it's not as visible, but as you can see, we're about a 10th slower, and another 10th, a couple of 10ths. So, yeah, the first lap here is quicker by a rather sizable margin. Again, this was on hard tires, so degradation shouldn't actually be a concern. The main thing here should be, you know, the energy, the tire deg. If we see the same on Tsunoda, it was a lot closer here. He actually had a better second stint, but as you can see, it's basically 10th his way, 2/10 his way here, about 10 slower here. So the 2 flying laps, at least at Imola, is somewhat reliable in terms of just getting you good lap times, and it is ATA qualifying where we have to use hards and mediums. So for this track, it could actually be kind of beneficial, I think. We're going to finish the other qualifying sessions though, and we'll have a bit of a relook. I'm just doing this because of old pains with this, but I'll check it out some of the qualifying if we need to, you know, toggle back and forth for the 2 flying laps still, or if it's fine to just leave them as they are, because I'm going to be experimenting with this this season to see if it's specifically enough for all tracks, if it still works on some tracks. If we have tracks like Imola where you have actually enough energy, where you don't need to worry about running this strategy of 2 flying laps back to back. So yeah, we have some options here. It's actually good. It means that we now have different qualifying strategies. But I would, again, I know that I demand a lot and I complain a lot, but I really would like to, for instance, have a quali run planner.
What's happened there?
Tsunoda has had a bit of an incident, run 1 wide on turn 6.
This one is involving Yuki Tsunoda.
So we actually had a tiny bit of damage here. So we actually had an incident with a little bit of damage in qualifying. It's been a while since I've seen that. Session suspended though. What happened here? I can't imagine that Tsunoda caused that red flag. If it did, it's a little bit overturned. Okay, it's Stroll. It's not us. I can see on that it's a red flag, to be fair. The car needs to be removed. And it is kind of in the corner where if you touch it, you are going to be in trouble. So, honestly, this is Stroll pulling a bit of a big brain move for us. Because what we can do now is that we can have a look at, well, for Lawson here, we're going to have to stick on the same tire, the same plan, same everything. But for Tsunoda, we can actually have a look at the underfloor. And as you can see, it takes us just under those 20 minutes to replace this. So we'll do that. We actually do have time to get it done. Because again, red flags give you about 20 or so minutes usually. And there we go. Tsunoda with a fresh new underfloor, no damage. And all it cost us was 1 stroll. But yeah, bit of a shame though, honestly, to be fair. But it does prove that you can actually switch parts that have damage during the race itself. Well, not the race itself, during qualifying. Of course, we would never have time enough to switch it during a normal qualifying run, because we have, 15 minutes for Q2. We have, 12 for Q3, 18 for, or is it 20 for Q1? I do kind of get those times mixed up and uncertain, but yeah. Did go kind of well. For Lawson here, we're actually going to be sending him out again, because he is kind of closer to the edge, if you will. Want to see if he can improve his time. And he is getting massively blocked though, so probably not going to improve anything massively here, which we've seen here that he didn't. But he improved both his runs, so not all bad. But yeah, the fact that Stroll basically died for our sins is kind of amazing. But yeah, if we have a quick look at the data view though for Lawson and Tsunoda, as you can see, it's actually under yellow flags. This is, once again, what I assume would be a visual bug. Basically, we had yellow flags when the red flag got announced. So I would assume that that is the reason why we're seeing them here. Now, once again, we're seeing some pretty, similar lap times. Both runs here, back to back, was just a few hundreds of each other. For Lawson, a bit of a bigger gaps here, but he did improve on the second run for both of these. But again, there was a lot of cars on track, there was some impeding, so I don't know how well we want to take these numbers, take them with a bit of salt. But for Tsunoda, as I said, he could keep the energy up. So honestly, I think as I said, I'm going to have a bit of a closer look at qualifying, as potentially here there is some potential for having certain tracks have certain strategies, if you will. So with that in mind, we'll be looking at that in the future. But for now, we're just going to get to the race itself, get qualifying done, and we'll see where we stack up on the grid. Q3 is over and done with, and as you can see here, 1-2, kind of what we've gotten accustomed to, half a second quicker than Verstappen in this case. And if we have a look here on the laps, these were on softs, but it's still slower here. Tsunoda also a tad slower, but quicker on the first ones. But again, these are very minimal gains. So doing 1 lap, doing 2 laps, 1 lap is probably going to be better going forwards. But I do want to point out that you still gonna need to toggle from 1 lap to 2 laps, or 2 laps to 1 and back if you want to do the 2 flyer. Because I didn't test it before doing this, and as you can see, just did 1, so it's still necessary to toggle back and forth to make sure that they do 2 fast laps if you opt for still doing it. But as said, 1 lap is now going to be very viable, if not the best option. So, compound performance here, the softs are about a little bit over 2/10 quicker than the mediums, about 13 laps here with the additional hundreds there. 13 laps advantage over the medium for the soft. Soft to hard, it's more of the same really. 28 to 13-14 laps there. So very balanced the tires in that regard, 200s between all of them. With that, the main thing is just going to be how well we deal with the pit stops, which honestly shouldn't be a concern. And do a 1-stop here. while it is on the table, we could do something different. Because again, the more aggressive strategy, the better here. So we're going to use both medium and hard compounds, for sure. And we'll have to see what we actually use for this final stint. For what we could do is actually put on that second set of hards that we got. Which honestly wouldn't be a horrible idea. It will allow us to run a full attack strategy versus, say, if we want to do a medium. Let's say that we do hard on the final one. Do attack on the medium one. Again, if you need to choose what to do attack on, do attack on the harder of the compounds you have available. Because that will save you the most time. So if you have a soft, medium, and hard, if you can only run attack on one of them, run attack on the hard tire, run, say, aggressive on the medium, and run standard on the soft. Because you'll gain more from running the attack tire in, well, the hard tire in attack, the slowest of the tires in this case, than running the, you know, quicker with lower degradation ones. So, yeah. I did not mean to do that, that's my bad, but yeah. Just a tiny bit of wisdom there that if you can, run your hardest compound on attack and ease up on the others to make up for it. So, in theory, this one is still quicker, the medium hard. And that is basically what we're going to be sticking with here for Lawson. Now, we're going to be using a somewhat used hard for this strategy, but let's face it, it's not a big concern. It's used for basically one run, same for Sonoda, we can do the exact same strategy. And we probably are going to do that, but what I'm thinking here is that we'll just start on the hards. Or rather, we'll start on the mediums. Sonoda should be able to stretch these tires, that's the thing. That's the idea, at least. So that we can snatch that faster lap again. And honestly, we don't need to really push super hard on the soft stint. But with that said, I think it benefits us to just give ourselves a little bit extra time in. Now, a 21-38, sorry, versus a 21-27 should mean that Lawson has a bit of an advantage here, honestly. It's what you'd usually expect, to be fair, let's be honest. But at the same time, Tsunoda last time around came out a good, well, beat Lawson handily. So I'm not actually concerned about that. I think Tsunoda's still going to win. We're still going to try and get that perfect run if we can. And honestly, with that in mind, we might as well just run an attack here for Tsunoda and just stretch the hard tire instead. And it's actually quicker. So we're just going to do this. And as said, we can do whatever we want on the soft stint here. What I'm thinking is that once we actually do pit onto it, we'll just run one fast lap, and then we'll just run down to aggressive or standard, depending on the gap to Lawson. For Lawson here, he's of course main battle is going to be with the Red Bulls, but honestly, I think we're fine. As you can see, we've also replaced this ERS. I also use these parts for one practice because I just clicked without thinking, which is my MO, really. It is my modus operandi. And, well, yeah, his ERS has been switched out because it was going to get damaged during this this race. But this is going to be a strategy. It's pretty simple and straightforward. We push, we get away, we run as well hard as we can on the medium stint here. We'll have to see with Lawson, as I said, how well he handles degradation, because at Miami it wasn't really that good. He had a bit higher degradation than we liked.
In anticipation of this, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix.
But I think we'll still be okay here.
And away we go.
Lights out, away we go. Verstappen on soft, Sainz on soft, Schumacher and Stroll. Other than that, there's no one else running a softer compound. Good start here from both our boys, and once again here, we're just going to tune down the aggression here.
We're happy to stay where we are.
Okay, copy.
No need to take any risks for both our boys here.
Overtake available.
Okay, we have a yellow flag, so we already have a bunch of incidents on this track compared to Miami, which is honestly good to see. It's Russell, Ferrari. To be fair though, that is a lot better than how it's used to be, I feel. Again, it could just be me being very hopeful and looking at things with tinted glasses here. Rose-colored glasses, as I say. But that crash did look a bit more organic, just a little bit of wheel banging there. Didn't actually lose anything, no penalties for anyone, so yeah, a little bit of a racing incident there. That one wasn't actually too bad. I'll take that. As you can see though, Tsunoda and Lawson are pushing along. We have pulled away from Leclerc. We are going to pull, stop the usage of energy because it's getting quite low. And while I do not like having two of my drivers basically run inside of each other because reasons of DNF, within this first stint, we should see them kind of slide more and more apart. As in particular, Lawson's tires gets used up. On tracks where the tire deck is higher, we'll be seeing this happening a lot quicker. But yeah, tires have a potentially of 130 degrees, so we're perfectly safe. We're just going to speed along here now on this first stint. And we should be seeing a pretty decent gap here, as we already are. But yeah, we'll use probably about 1.2 kilograms of fuel. That should be the safe zone now. It's basically what I decided. We don't go below 1.2 because if we have a, much less incidents, we have far less get out of jail free cards for the times when we push our fuel beyond what we should. So we'll leave things as they are for now. They can run side by side. Again, this is small risk with this, but I think we'll be okay. We've actually ended up in quite a concerning condition here because Lawson has somehow managed to cook his tires more than I anticipated. The condition has been fairly high here, 125 degrees. I said 130, which is probably why, because I thought we were within the safe window. But Lawson here has actually been overcooking his tires, and that is going to come at a pretty sizable cost here. We're going to have to pit early. There's going to be a bit of a problem here with the other cars. And yeah, generally not the best. Should have no problems with the hards, I hope. Tsunoda is still looking good. He too is getting closer though to cooking those tires a little bit, so we'll tune him down to aggressive. Just kind of what we're going to have to. We had a crash on track with Bearman here. Hopefully the front wing took most of the brunt of that, which means that he should still be in the race, and he is. But yeah, I think we're going to just pit Lawson this lap. We don't really have much of a choice. We're going to put him on the older hards first. We can have a bit of a look if we can make it, kind of stick. For Tsunoda here, we're just going to push these tires till, the end, basically. Before Lawson, he's going to come out basically here in the gap, hopefully. No, we didn't even beat them out. We also had a bit of a pit stop issue. But yeah, not a good start to the race here for Lawson at all. And we'll have to see it now if we can actually run these hards reliably, or if we need to tune them down to get things done. Ocon with a bit of a penalty here. Lawson has apparently been part of the incident. Looking forward to seeing what actually happened here.
There's been a crash. Right then, we can take a look now. Now we're watching Esteban Ocon. Now there's an inviting opportunity there. Oh, and the car's there, unable to...
Basically wheel banging, but I don't know why Ocon got a penalty. Probably because he's Ocon, to be fair. But yeah, Lawson is going to, as I said, have a bit of work cut out from here in terms of getting back up. And we're going to keep Tsunoda out for one more lap. It's getting closer to, danger zone, but it's fine. These tires should handle up to 130 degrees. So we'll see how well they do actually hold up. For Tsunoda, we can just put him on the fresh hards because he's only using one set. And for Lawson here again, overtaking is going to be a bit of a pain. But if we give him the energy, it should make it a lot more painless, hopefully. As you can see, we actually started that hard stint low what we expected. But if we keep everything up here, it should still be okay. But yeah, overtaking is a bit of a challenge, not unsurprisingly here on this track. Probably should have saved my energy for the main straight here. But it is what it is. Tsunoda even comes out a little bit into some potential traffic here. And, well, Verstappen, Sainz, Stroll are going to be pitting. We have Lawson once again here in a bit of an incident with...
through turn 4. It's there for the taking.
I think Stroll failed his brake mark here and takes out the
we've an incident here. Kevin Magnussen, it looks
Takes
like.
out Magnussen. I don't know. We'll see.
And if we watch Magnussen, the cars jostling for position, and you can see how the cars
Did they
come
touch
together.
each other and come to a stop? Is that what happened? Because that is kind of what it looks like happened. Penalty for Magnussen there. That one was that was not the best angle. Let's put it like that to have a look at that incident. But yeah, Tsunoda, Lawson here is getting to the point here now where his tires are dangerously hot. He's still fine though for the time being, so we'll just push him up to aggressive again. Tsunoda is going to be a bit of a different, not really kettle of fish, but you know, a bit of a different problem here. Shouldn't actually be, you know, a concern though. As you can see, he's already just flying by the cars in front. Most of them on older tires. Verstappen in this case on very old tires.
Copy.
So, yeah. Basically just flying, already back up into second. Lawson is still running 9th here. Probably have cost him a decent amount of time just being stuck behind others. Degradation-wise, it's still looking good for both drivers, and I think we are kind of stable at this point. Tsunoda should just fly by Gio, who somehow has put himself in the lead here. I don't know how he pulled this off. Italian Jesus doing miracles in Italy. But it's going to be interesting to see where he actually ends up finishing this race. A lot of cars now up to pit. Lawson do jump them all, giving himself a bit of free reign here in terms of the air. So that is good. Should make our life a bit easier. Tsunoda has pulled away from Giovinazzi. Schumacher with a pistol issue. See, if I complain a little bit, we get all the issues in one race instead. So yeah, we'll have Lawson try and make his way up to second again. Shouldn't actually be a concern, let's face it. In terms of the interval, it's 10 seconds up to Gio. And in terms of the last lap here, 16.3 versus 17.7, 18.4, 17.5. He's gaining a second a lap, so it's looking very, very promising. Now, we do have also that fresh hard stint to the end, so we'll have to see if we do end up with a lot of dirty air, we'll just tune him down. Basically, the degradation becomes higher than anticipated. But for now, things are looking fairly good here. Sargent up into 4th place. Lawson is actually now in a position where we kind of have to pit him. He still has about 3 laps to go on the initial strategy, but we did put him on a damage set. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to pit him. And we're just going to keep him on attack for now because he doesn't have that big of a gap down to Leclerc. He's probably going to get jumped by both Leclerc and Gio now that he does pit. Thing here now is, can we beat Gasly and Verstappen? And that does not look to be viable either. So Lawson once again finds himself in a position where he has to do overtakes on cars that are older hards, but are going to be on those hards till the end. So there's 4 overtakes. It's still not horrible. It's still not a bad thing, let's be honest here. But because we have seen that the degradation is higher than anticipated, we basically just want to heat up those tires, and then we'll tune him onto a more aggressive, line of strategy. I'm also surprised that he is only high in his confidence, although he is failing overtake after overtake here. As I said, it's a bit surprising that he is struggling as much as he is with his confidence, because he has been flying, he has done overtakes earlier in the race. So, yeah, just a tad bit surprising there. But now that we got him past Verstappen, should have no problem just flying by Gasly too. Then hunting down Leclerc and Gio. For Tsunoda here, degradation isn't as bad as we anticipated. Well, it's basically on the line, which is what we like. But looking at this first stint and towards the end here of the second stint for Lawson, we would have expected it to be a tad worse than what it actually ended up being. And Lawson here gets some overtakes, gets past lap, and he's straight up back to peak confidence. This is also one of the things that I did complain about earlier, the fact that confidence is very much like a yo-yo ball. I understand that this is basically like a form system and gives a driver a bit of an advantage in moments to make things a little bit more interesting. But they shouldn't have called it that. They should just call it driver momentum in that case, basically. Basically, you have a bunch of good stuff going for you, gives you a little bit of momentum, gives you that little bit of extra confidence to, pull off a little bit of a better performance. Confident isn't the wrong word, though, but if you take it into context of F1 drivers who are very, driven people, in the sense that if you get into an F1 car, your confidence probably isn't going to be the thing that really shatters you, so to speak.
Update on tires, update on tires.
But yeah, it's basically just me nitpicking, so don't take it too hard. It's nothing, you know. I don't mean anything bad about it. I can put it like that. Did kind of forget about Tsunoda here in my rant though, so we'll get him in now.
Copy.
I don't actually know where he is on track. He just finished. He's running with, you know, some other guys up front. So we'll get him in after the end of this lap. Now Lawson is actually kind of struggling with getting the overtakes done, but we did get the Alpine. Are we going to get the Red Bull too? We are. And I'm curious now if running aggressive will be enough to get away from Leclerc. Looks like it will be. Already pulled a second away. So we're just going to keep him on aggressive for now because, as I said, degradation was higher than anticipated. Tsunoda now is going to have a bit of a, you know, shit warm-up, if you will, to his fastest lap because there's just so many backmarkers. Honestly, at this point, pitting again for a new set of softs might be the best option for getting this this fastest lap pulled off, but we'll try. We'll just have to potentially try twice. Worst case scenario, the current fastest lap is actually held by Danny Rick. We set the record, I believe, last season. So let's see if we can actually beat that. But yeah, a lot of backmarkers here being a bit troublesome. We are setting purples though. And Tsunoda, I believe, beat the fastest lap record there handily again. 1:12.7. And yeah, that is 2 seconds quicker than Danny Rick. So we'll take that for sure. And we'll just tune him down now too, because there's no reason for us to push anything more aggressively than we need to. Lawson is on a harder compound though, so I do want to have him push a little bit further. But for now, we'll just speed along till the end of this race. We have a virtual safety car. Bearman once again causing some problems there. He's out this time around though. Light hit, so I guess he, you know, caused more damage to, well, something that was already damaged. But yeah, this is not a concern for us. It's actually pretty good. And as I said, it does seem like either you get a lot of things happening like this race or you get none. So it's a bit weird. It might just be, as I said, that it's a confirmation bias thing, that we feel like they made some changes to things that they haven't, mainly because there are things left out of the patch notes, which makes you speculate. But yeah, we'll have to see if they actually did have fixed incidents, but touching tires at least have looked a tiny bit better to me. But again, it could be just those rose tinted glasses and the hopes of something having changed. So we'll see if it turns out that's actually the case. But yeah, Tsunoda here being far more stable than Lawson. It's actually a surprise, to be honest. He does do the job very, very well. And we should just, as I said, speed along here now till the end. We're looking at something very, very interesting here. Italian Jesus running in third, fighting Leclerc. Who's gonna be, who's gonna win here? Because if Giovinazzi pulls this off, I'm actually gonna be impressed. Looks like he does. A podium for Alpine. For Italian Jesus. That is, that's pretty mad, honestly.
That was a brilliant performance.
But yeah, we get the usual result here. Fastest lap, everything for Tsunoda. Just gonna be interesting looking next year to see all of the, you know, fastest laps belonging to Tsunoda potentially. But we'll keep on going as we have been. Lawson gets second. Giovinazzi pulls off something, as I said, pretty amazing here, getting third for Alpine. Leclerc and Verstappen fourth and fifth. Then we have Gasly, Russell, Stroll, Sainz, and Show. So, yeah, pretty good here. Both Mercs still kind of nowhere. A bit of surprise that they have taken this much of a nosedive. I did forget to check the car before the race, so we'll have a look at that ourselves. Lawson now is getting very close to our second place. It's shared between 3 people currently. So, yeah, looking tad interesting from that perspective. Constructors then, we have a incredibly healthy lead. Once again, we gain about twice the amount of points of Red Bull and, in this case, Alpine. Kind of jumped way ahead there in the midfield fight. Williams scoring point means that Haas now is potentially going to be perpetually 10th, most likely. And pistol-wise, we have the 1st and the 5th best stop. So yeah, again, it just feels a bit unrealistic to me, but that is what it is. Lawson, unfortunately, also had this pit stop mistake, but we minimized it to just, you know, about a second loss there. So we'll take it. Contreras also got some practice done. I did not forget. Praise me, everyone. This does not happen often. And we get a qualifying streak and everything done here. We are getting to a point now where we're getting a lot of money. So we might actually need to consider doing some upgrades to our, you know, facilities. Although we did just refurbish the CFD facility. Now, it looks like we do have some car part damage. A destroyed underfloor, which is not a surprise. Failed side pods and failed chassis. It's not a huge concern. We can fix that whenever we really want to. So we're just going to go ahead and replace that chassis. We are manufacturing others, so we can't actually, you know, start a new project. We're going to replace the side pods. Same here. I believe that we are... Well, we aren't. We actually finished that. But we are going to manufacture a new underfloor. Kind of need to have at least some in the bank. And for the side pods here, we're just going to manufacture an additional one. Again, not a big problem. We can kind of keep up on the parts right now. Other than that, some sort of mail here that I have missed apparently, so we'll just press mark as red and head up to Monaco. Both of our facilities have been refurbished now, which should make our life a little bit easier. Performance targets here should also be fairly simple. One driver in top 2, because whenever I get confident that, oh, we can have both drivers there, we end up crashing out. So we'll just have that one driver and just get a bit of reliable money, because currently we aren't actually pressed for money. Cost cap remaining here, this is a bug, so we also do need to be careful with that. It's a visual bug for seasons that have already started. It should fix itself next season. So this is not reliable at all. And, well, it's going to be interesting to see if we actually hit cost cap this year, because we're just going to be doing research from here on out. But I think we'll be safe. Facilities, as I said, we are upgrading the science center. We could potentially also invest into the suspension sim here. But again, we don't need these facilities until next year. So, well, upgrading this one now is probably the best. I think we're gonna just go ahead and upgrade that now. The factory, we could refurbish it, but for now, it's not actually a big concern. We'll allow it to upgrade a little bit more before we do. Staff facilities looking good. The operational facilities here. The helipad does need some refurbishing. Might as well just go ahead and refurbish all of these at this stage. They have taken a bit of a hit. The weather center, let's just refurbish that as well. We are spending a bit of money here, but it needs to have a bit of a yearly, you know, spruce up, if you will. Now, in terms of the car analysis, let's have a look at what we are, you know, competing with. We have the best car in everything but dirty air tolerance, brake cooling, and engine cooling. And let's face it, even then, our brake cooling is over 70%. Same for the engine cooling. So, dirty air. So it's not actually a big concern. You start seeing, the closer you get to 80%, the more of a drop you're seeing in terms of performance. And even then, it's not actually a huge concern here. Red Bull, we're about 15% behind the brake cooling. They should be able to push their tires way more aggressively than we do. But because they don't actually go full on aggressive strategies, they actually kind of waste, this is basically wasted development for the AI, which is a bit unfortunate. The engine cooling here too, they basically pushed this a bit further than it needed to and sacrificed a bit of top speed, a bit of DRS effectiveness, a bit of low speed, medium speed, and high speed. Mainly, you know, performance as a result. So while we have sacrificed these 3 stats to gain, you know, everything else here, they've still kept everything somewhat balanced. And that is mainly why they are behind us. Yeah, we are going to end today's part here, mainly because I've gone on and on rambling for a long time. We'll have to take a look at the durability next time. Let me know if you found anything else that might be a, you know, an intended patch note, the unofficial patch notes, if you will. And we'll have a look at that the next time around, probably for AT. Probably will not have an opportunity to do that for Alfa Romeo. It should be out tomorrow. And yeah, I do have family, you know, things going on this weekend, so I don't have time to stream. Unfortunately, there will be no stream tomorrow. We'll have to see when the next time actually opens up is, because next week is a full work week where I'm working a lot of late shifts. So in terms of streaming, in terms of, well, virtually having time to record, I'm going to be fairly limited. So we'll see exactly what we end up doing during this coming week. But thank you all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Drop a like if you have. And let's see if, let me know if Stroll has died for your sins, as he did for Tsunoda during that qualifying in Italy. Bye-bye.